Today is the 16th of June 2025, and today I must talk about the most important factor of our elections, the most important factor that determines the fate of this nation. It is not money, it's not politics, it is not this party, it is not that ideology, it is none of that. What it is caste. Caste is the single most important factor that determines the fate of our nation, the fate of more than a billion people. Caste. Caste. Every single party in our country, whether in Bengal, whether in Tamil Nadu, whether in Punjab, and whether in Madhya Pradesh, whichever state you are, knows that the elections depend on caste. No matter how much you try to show our country as a progressive, modern, new age, developed, sophisticated country. The fact is that caste is still the biggest factor in determining who wins the elections. Yes, we live in the internet age. We we live in a age where religion is generally looked down upon and science is the new god and atheism is seen as a sign of superiority and the person who follows atheism is generally seen as a smart man. A man who questions authority is seen as smart. A man who questions religion is seen as smart. A man who questions idols is seen as smart. A man who questions is seen as smart. And rationality is the spirit, and science and logic, reason are the gods of this age. Nonetheless, if one could think that just because of the internet, just because we started wearing clothes like a white man, just because we started wearing Western clothes, just because we started speaking English, just because we started acting more Western, just because of all these superficial reasons, that our nation has now become modern, progressive, sophisticated, and has changed, it is completely false. It is completely false because we have not developed. We have only covered that wound that we've been carrying from the past 1,000 years, which is caste. And it is what every single politician knows, but no single politician will express it out loud, and no single party will openly say in the party's name that I am a party for this caste. I am a vehicle for this caste to gain power, and I exist only due to the support of this caste. There is no party that will do this because all of us want to pretend and fit in these times where caste and religion and all are seen as antiquated and the new order is being sophisticated and logical. But fact is, just because you change the name, just because you pretend it doesn't exist, a problem does not go away. Just because you say I'm okay when you have a goddamn parasite in your head doesn't mean the parasite will also go away. Just because a coconut falls on your head and you say I'm okay, I don't want to go to hospital, doesn't mean you'll bleed to you won't bleed to death. And so the single most important factor determining our nation is not our economy, it's not our finances, it's not about our businesses, it's not about anything, not our ideology, nothing, but it is caste. Because caste is the number one reason and number one factor on which elections are still fought even in 2025. And when elections most important factor is caste, those who understand this factor the best will be in power, and those who will be in power gets to choose the fate of our nation. So now do you see how important caste is? By ignoring the problem, it will not go away. The only way you make a problem go away is to fix the problem. When you have a cut in your hand, you do not let it open. You do not ignore it. What you do is you go to a doctor, you put stitches on it, then you put a bandage on it, and you clean the wound, and then you wait for a few days and few months, and it will heal. That is something we have skipped by thinking if we ignore it, it will go away on its own, and it has not gone away on its own even in 2025. In 2025, times are such dangerous as we can see what's happening all around the world around us, what path of the world is. We all expected that the 21st century is going to be a very peaceful time and a very wonderful time where we all sing Kumbaya together. All of us hold hands, all of us are no beardless, all of us are all smiling with flower crowns on our head, all of us with long white gowns, holding each other and saying, I love you, I love you. We are all friends. But we have seen what's happening Even at this age, 2025 is much more violent, in fact, than the 2010s and the 2000s before. And now we are entering into a much, much more dangerous age. And that false illusion we had that the world is now perfect and we have finally overcome all that was in the past, all the violence and the problems in the past is gone. That illusion is being shattered because it was very clearly seen by still the fact that caste politics exists even to this day. Caste politics, to solve it, we must go back to its origins. The origins, we must go to the highest authority on this subject matter. And who else is that? The seventh avatar of the great Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna himself. What does he say? He says that humans are divided into four groups: the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, the Shudras. The Brahmanas are the intellectual class. It is not a caste but an intellectual class. These, in the modern day, would be something like an Anand Ranganathan, or it would be something like a Albert Einstein, or it would be something like a Galileo, or it would be something like a Abdul Kalam. That is what a Brahman is. Basically the intellectual, the thinkers, the people whose profession is thinking. Now the Kshatriyas. The Kshatriyas are those who are involved in ensuring the society functions and ensuring that the society does not get destroyed by a foreign invading enemy. These are the ones who do government jobs, soldier jobs, and are in the service of the society. These are the group, this is the class that take care of society, basically, ensures that it is strong together. This is the government class, the bureaucrats, the army men. That is the Kshatriyas. It is not a caste. But the Kshatriyas is someone like a Modi. The Kshatriyas was someone like a Bipin Rawat, someone like a Thackeray. And they are not a caste. They are the government, the bureaucrats, the men in power. The soldiers, the generals, the commanders, the sailmen, the navy, and the bureaucrats. That's what they are. And third is the Vaishyas. The Vaishyas are the businessmen, the merchants, the traders. These are the Adanis, the Ambanis, and the businessman you see across the street. And next is the Shudras. The Shudras are basically those that work other work. Basically employees. This is me and you going in for a 9-to-5 job. Me and you working in some company. Me and you working this role in this company. Me and you this and that. Basically the rest of the jobs, the most important jobs, the jobs on which the entire society is dependent upon, i.e. the men who alone might be seemingly powerless compared to the other ones, but together is the entire reason why the three other classes exist. These are the main people, the majority of people, us. This is what we are. And if you notice that every single human society, even in Ram Raja, today in India, to Japan, to USA, to the Kingdom of England 1000 years ago, to China 5000 years ago, to Egypt 1000 years ago, whichever country, there's always been four classes, which is the administrative class, the Kshatriyas, the intellectual class, the other employee manual class, and the trader business class. And this is normal, and this is how human society is ordered by God. Now, just because these divisions exist is not a divisions on discrimination or divisions based on who's more privileged and who's more superior to each other. No, it's just basically a division of labor. A Shudra can anytime become a Kshatriya can become a Shudra can become a Brahmin, and a Brahmin can become a Shudra. There is no such thing as if you were born here, then you become that. Anyone can change their profession and anyone can change their jobs. That is the meaning of the Varnas. That's what it is, and every human society, no matter how much you deny, will always have it. Even the so-called communist societies who wanted to eradicate every single class themselves had a ruling class over the people. So it is seen that it is inevitable. This is in fact seen in nature too. Look at the ants. Even the ants have divided their structure into the queen and the workers, but Be grateful that you're not born an ant, because as an ant, you're born as a worker and you'll die as a worker. And a human structure, you can be born as the lowest single person, such as Modi. He was born as a simple chai, son of selling chai, and look now where he is, ruler, ruler of the entire nation. So this is the benefit of being a human, that no matter what stage of life you're born, no matter how low your position is, your birth will never determine the fate of your circumstances, and that is the beauty of it. And this Varna system is interchangeable. It is basically just your job. Today, you want to be you were a soldier, but tomorrow you want to do business. So be it, and you can do it. And that is the meaning of the Varnas, the four Varnas. But what happened is, over time, a corrupt few slowly started to make the society like ants. They slowly started to solidify the person. They slowly started to say, hey, you're a Shudra, but you might be the most smartest man. You have shown your intellectual quality, but we cannot make you a Brahmin. Hey, you're a Vaishya. You've shown excellent qualities of being a warrior, or a king, a leader of the people, but you're a Vaishya, so you better stick to business. Hey, you're a Brahmin. But you're not really acting as a Brahmin. You have shown horrible intellectual powers, and we think we should demote you. You're not fit to be in this. But anyway, we're going to still privilege you over that talented Shudra over there, because you're born a Brahmin. This is what happened over 1,000 years, and it has created a corrupt system, solidifying it like an ant society. And this leads to oppression. This is where problems started to happen. And then further, they started to divide into castes. These four core groups, basically a division of labor, started to divide into different castes. Now, there were many who opposed this discrimination based on birth, and it is clearly anti-Hindu, and every single scripture is against the discrimination based on birth. Because can you control the circumstances of your birth? If you can't control the circumstances of birth, I will give up now. And every single person who's fighting caste, fighting discrimination and oppression based on this, will also go home and quit this thing. We'll just quit it right now, because it's such a silly thing. But can a single person prove that you can choose your birth? Has a single man in the history of humankind of 10,000 years got to choose his birth? No. So how can you blame the individual for his birth? Blame the individual for his actions, never his birth. Well, his actions is what makes a man, not his birth. Doesn't matter where you came from, how low you were from, but it depends on the actions. And that is what every single person wanted to fight against. But caste wanted to solidify this. They asked, why did you want to solidify it? Because it was giving privileges to a certain few, and they wanted to keep those privileges. They did not want to be challenged by someone else who has more talent and more skill than them. So this is what happened. They started to solidify these things. And over 1,000 years, this was solidified, and certain castes, certain groups got delegated only to this job, only to living this life. And then over time, over 1,000 years, it became a separate community. And this is what happened to the Jatis. This is basically how Jatis came to be. From the castes over thousands of years of forced living in only a certain style of life, it created Jatis. Now, there were certain men throughout the ages of history who were against this. People like the great Basavanna. And many people, even in modern times, have fought against this. And by every right, every man who has fought against birth-based discrimination is right. And there is every god in every scripture, in every religion, and every type of logic there is, that there is right. Birthright discrimination is wrong in every single way of the world. And any man who opposes this, man who supports birth-based discrimination, is clearly at fault, clearly has no God on his side, and he has no justice and righteousness on his side. There is no argument that can defend him. There is no debate that he can win in. And there is no logic and supporters he can win over. Because it is false. It is the most false position anyone can take. No one can deny this. For that man who's speaking out of privilege, had he born in an oppressed environment, if he had born in a lower family, do you seriously think he would still be supporting the birth-based oppression, or would he fight against it? He would fight against it. So again, it is only by chance that he is fighting against the noble struggle against birth-based discrimination. And he is truly among those wild few who want to continue this. So in the course of 1,000 years, many men in our Indian society, great men, have rose up to fight against this. Now, it is not my topic, or it is not our topic, and it is not of our concern to debate on their characters, what they did in this action, what they did in that month. We should not really care about it, because it has no relevance and bearing to our life and the future tomorrow. What we must concern ourselves is, what was the cause of why they did it? What was the noble reason? Was there a noble reason? What was the initial cause they did it for? What did they actually stand to fight for in the end? What was the grand plan they had in their mind? So based on that, we can see that they had the grand plan to end discrimination based on birth. And that is right. There was nothing wrong in it. So thus, many years, Ambedkar, a man with noble intention, indeed fought for the lower classes, those who had been stuck in this birth-based misery. And thus, on the system after independence, a system known as reservation was built, was set up. This strategy and logic behind this system was that these oppressed classes, those who had been kept down for thousands of years, would now be uplifted. They would be forcefully lifted up, giving them rights. By reserving a quota for them, they could use that quota to lift themselves out of the misery. And this was actually a right strategy, because this is how the strategy was supposed to go. The original planning of the system of reservation, when it was first implemented in the Indian Republic, and what Ambedkar wanted was that it would last for enough limited time, and in that limited time, the effect of reservation would have taken so much place that the so-called lower class would no longer be a lower class. Why? Because now the entire lower class has been uplifted, and they can now compete against the classes that were already privileged in the beginning. So you see, this reservation was actually a good idea, because they, unlike the communists, did not want to pull down the upper classes. They did not want to pull down the upper classes, but wanted to lift the lower classes. It's a win-win. The upper classes do not lose anything. They do not pull down, and they are not made to pay a big price. But the lower classes are pulled up. This makes a stronger society. So it was actually a good idea. But think what happened is that certain crooks, there is no other word to say but crooks, used caste as a political trick so they can get their seat, and so they can sit on the seat in the parliament. That is the unfortunate reason of what happened. This noble system, which was meant for the upliftment of a lower class to become self-reliant and self-sufficient and able to look after their own and become strong themselves, and they don't need daddy, mommy, or the government to take care, but a strong man themselves, a strong community of themselves who can take care of themselves, was now converted into a cheap political game. So these certain crooks, they claimed that I would fight for your rights, for your caste, for our lower caste, against the upper caste who has been oppressing us for thousands of years. And the lower class gave them the support. But what happened is these crooks, many crooks of them, refused to uplift the lower class. Why? Because the moment they uplifted the lower class, would they need this so-called politician again? No, because he's fulfilled his job. Now they're equal to them, and now they can take care of themselves. But that is not what the politician wanted, because the politician needs their support so he can get in the seat. That's what he wanted to do. So he would always promise that I will lift you up, but they never kept lifting them up. And this is the reason why even in the year 2025, many castes are still left behind. This is the unfortunate reason. And thus, caste reservation was politicized. And that has mired our nation, where no one wins. The lower castes do not get the upliftment, the upper castes don't develop and do not catch up with the world, and as a whole, which is more important than this upper caste, lower caste, the entire nation of Bharatavarsha, the entire nation of the children of Rama, the children of the great rishis, the Sapta rishis, are behind all other nations of this world. We are behind. In fact, we were the first nation. The Indian civilization was the oldest civilization in human history, yet we are far behind. Those civilizations that compare to us are just children in their age. The true end goal, which we had to fight for, was for the upliftment of the lower classes, and not the lower and pulling down of the upper classes, but to lift the lower classes up to be strong and equal as the upper classes, and then let both the classes fend for themselves and become self-reliant, take care of themselves, and become brothers, because both are integral and both are needed. One cannot exist with the other, and it is not that one is a burden and is a weightage on the Republic of India, and it's not that one is a benefit. No, we need both of them to work together, because a clock does not run with one wheel. A clock runs on the hundreds of wheels inside it. One wheel big, one wheel small, but every wheel just as vital as the other. My people of Indian, sons of Bharatavarsha, low caste, this jati, that jati, this state, that state, no, it doesn't matter. We are all sons of Bharat, Emperor Bharata. We are all sons of the first great Rishi Manu, who was saved by Lord Vishnu's first avatara, Matsya. We are the children of the 7 Sapta Rishis. We are children of the oldest civilization. We are the children of those civilizations that has produced the greatest philosophy and who has grasped the truth of the universe. The wisest people that have ever existed. Of those brave kings such as Amogavarsha, Chandragupta Maurya and Shivaji. That is who we are. We are their children. And we will not fight each other and not besmirch this man's caste, that man's caste, that man's jati, that man's history. No, no, no. Who said so? Who said so? We don't need to do that. We must all stand together. That was the end goal. So all of us could stand strong together, and every single one of us could make a strong nation together, and not an ant society. Never ever an ant society. But the thing is, many people were against this, so which is the reason that we had to force equality. And until and unless the lower castes are finally uplifted by force or by any other means, but just have to be uplifted to an integral part, not seen as just a mere workforce of the other classes, we are still lagging behind. So we need to lift them up, and we have to stop this infighting. We do not want to pull down the upper classes, but we want to pull up the lower classes. And we want both of them to know that both of us have roles, and we are all the same. We are all the sons of Bharata, and we have no time to argue about your surname, that man's surname, or that man came from that state, that man came from this state, this man's grandfather had this job, that man's grandfather had that job. We do not have the time to argue all of these, but to look out and watch out for those bloodthirsty demons that are on our borders. In every side, east, north and west, there are bloodthirsty demons, and we must stay together, and only if we stay together do we have a stand and chance to fight against them. Every single caste, every single jati is an integral part of our nation. It is an integral part of Bharatavarsha, and all of us, and only if all of us stay together and stay strong and not oppress each other, can we together crush the enemies outside our borders, crush the enemies who threaten our nation, and crush those who want to seek our downfall by playing on this caste game, those who want to see us fight amongst ourselves and crush us like they have kept doing it so from the past history, as we have noticed. All of us, lower or upper, we must all be lifted even higher and must be made even stronger and united. And only then can we defeat those enemies plotting at this moment as we speak.